Okay guys, I'm going to try to solve a problem from chapter 18. It looks like it's going to be the hardest one, so I think if we can get that one, we'll be pretty set to go for the test. So you can find this problem in the chapter 18 notes. Click on that. It's in the Excel file. Wait for that to come up. Okay, so here's the problem, 1823. It's the last tab. Says computing EUP, assigning costs with beginning work in progress, no cost transferred in. So right there tells us we're not going to have any transferred in cost, so our worksheet will only have 4 columns, but I'm going to make 5 just so that way in case we do have 5 you'll know how to do it. The problem says Shays Winery in Pleasant Valley, New York has 2 departments, fermenting and packaging. Direct materials are added at the beginning of the beginning of the fermenting process, grapes at the end of the packaging process. Conversion costs are added evenly throughout each process. The company uses the weighted average method, data from the month of March for the fermenting department as follows. Okay, so all of this stuff isn't really telling us anything. The only thing it's really telling us is that we don't have to do anything strange because none of the direct materials are added at the beginning. The direct materials are added at the beginning, so that means we don't have to worry about them being added in the middle or the end. And the conversion costs are added evenly throughout the process. And they use the weighted average method. Now, the only reason they wrote weighted average method is because we have FIFO in the book. So he already told us all our problems are going to have weighted average. So we don't need to do anything really spectacular. All we have to do is make the data cost, the product cost report. So here's all the data. We'll just look at that. But the first thing we need to know is compute the fermenting department's equivalent units of production for direct materials and for conversion costs. The second thing we have to do is compute total costs of the units. Okay, so rather than do those things separately, I'm just going to create the worksheet like we did in class because that's probably what we're going to have on the test. So here I have the answer already prepared. It's hidden. So let's just unhide it real quick to see what we're looking at. Try not to focus on the answers. Just look at the format so that way we have an idea of what it's going to look like when we finish. So let's zoom out. It looks like it's still hidden. Let's click on hide. And there's the worksheet. So this is what we're trying to create with these values. And once again, don't look at the values because that might give away the answer. Just look at the format and let's see if we can make this from memory, because if we can, then that's going to definitely help us on the test. These are the main components. Okay, so let's do it. We'll go ahead and hide that. Hide all of it. Let me go back. Okay, so that way it doesn't get hidden inside the already hidden one. Let's just hide all that. Okay, so we'll start here. First thing we have to do is create the title. And the title, the name of the company is Shays Winery. Shays Winery. This is a production cost report dash fermenting department. Okay. Don't worry about the formatting for now, we'll fix that. And it looks like it says month ended. Remember to put month ended and not period ended, because period is non-specific. Month ended March. I think there's 30 days in March 2018. Use 2018 as the date. Okay. Okay, I'm going to zoom out. Let's just see how much space we're going to need. Okay. Let's take our title. Paste here. Now, as you probably can notice, the production cost report is divided into two parts, units and costs. Of course, here they don't say units, they say gallons, but we're going to use units just to be uniform with some of the other problems that we've done, and then the costs are given here. And luckily for us, they've given us all of the information in the exact same order as the cost report that we're going to do. So all we have to do is follow along with what the format they've already created, and that will create all of the lines that we need in order to fill out the entire report. I don't imagine that will be the case on the test, but if it is, then we got lucky. So we know this is going to be a 20-line report, so let's go ahead and put units. Skip down about halfway. That was on line 7, so we'll go down to 17 and put costs. Okay. We know that's a heading. The next line's a heading as well. A subheading. Units to account for. That's the first line. The second line is, and it's given here in the problem, beginning work in process. I'm just going to put abbreviation, comma, started. Okay. Okay, so the next line is, oh, I missed a line actually. This is delete that. Beginning work in process. Next line, started in production. Okay, that ends that section. I'm going to go ahead and put total units here so we know that's the end of it. Total units to account for. Okay, that's done. Skip down, go to the next one. Once we've done the units to account for, now we do units accounted for. Okay, that's the heading. Tab in. The next line, completed and transferred out. Okay, next line should be ending work in process. Notice whenever you're doing these worksheets, every beginning always has an end with it. I don't know if that's going to be the case for the entire class, but I've noticed all the worksheets, including the income statement and the statement of goods manufactured, whenever they have a beginning, they always have an end. And sometimes the beginning is at the beginning of the worksheet and the end is down at the bottom. But wherever there's a beginning, there's always an end. So that's a pattern you might take note of. Okay. So we'll do total, just like we did for the other subheading. Total units accounted for. Okay. And we'll go down to the costs. The costs are exactly the same as the units, except we're going to replace all the words units with costs. And that should complete our worksheet with the exception of 2 lines that come after this first set of costs. So let's go ahead and fill that in. Units, costs to account for. Indent, beginning with, started, did I spell that right? ST. In production, total costs to account for. And as I said, this is the special exception after this first cost block. So the exception, there are 2 lines. The first one is divide by, and that tells you exactly what to do later when we're going to add the EUP together and then divide by the costs. So it's a good little reminder, and that's why I like doing it this way. Divide by. I'm going to put a space first, just to make it clear. Divide by total EUP. And the next line is, and the way I remember it is, we're in the cost section, and we just divided. So the next line is costs. And we also just did an equivalent units calculation, so cost per EQUILIVNT equivalent unit. That's the magic number that we're going to use to multiply later to get our total costs. And that's the end of our exception. Now we finish out the worksheet by simply copying the second quad of units and changing those units to costs. Of course, in this case, they used gallons, but just remember we used units. So costs accounted for. Tab in after the heading. Completed. And transferred out, ending with, and total cost accounted for. And we have completed all of the rows for our worksheet. So now let's do the columns. Okay, we know this is a 5, in its fullest form, it's a 5-column worksheet. I'm going to go ahead and fill it out that way because that's the way the model is, and it'll make for easier comparison. But as I'm sure you guys remember, the transferred in costs are 0, so we're going to have zeros for all of the values in the transferred in columns. So let's go ahead and write that in. First is physical flow. Physical flow, space over 2 times, transferred in, which will be 0, space over 2 times, direct material, space over 2 times, conversion cost, and that's the fifth column. And as I'm sure you guys remember, conversion costs are not directly stated in the problem, and they're not likely to be directly stated in on our test. So you add manufacturing overhead with direct labor in order to get your conversion costs. Don't forget that. It will throw off your entire worksheet. Okay, so we know these columns, not the physical flow, these columns transfer down to the cost section. So let's copy those. Move down to the cost. I'm going to insert a column here. Insert. Oh, I can't do that because I copied this. Okay, guys, I had a little problem with the recording, so I'm going to pick up where I left off. And we know this transferred in direct materials and conversion cost all carry down to the cost section. So we're going to copy that and place it above the cost section. Paste. And let's insert a line just to make it more readable. And insert. Okay, and I'm going to insert another line here because I omitted. Insert another line here. Okay, this is called equivalent units. Okay, so now that we have the format looking pretty good, let's go ahead and do a little bit more tidying up. This is bold and it's centered, so let's go ahead and merge and center our title. Merge and center. And merge and center. Let's put the bolding in. Bold. Bold as well for the units, the headings. Bold for the cost. Equivalent units are these three. So let's merge and center that and bold that as well. And equivalent units has a bottom bar. So let's put that in. Okay. Now we can start putting in the values, but I like to format the cells so that way I know what is being added. And so everywhere I see a total, I like to put a total. So that's a top and double bottom there. And these will not be used. So let's go ahead, now that we know that's added, let's go ahead and put in the units. Beginning work in process, 500 gallons. Started in production, oh, pardon me, delete, 500, and started in production, 8,600. Okay, and this is equal to the summation of those two, so we'll just auto sum that and click again to confirm. It's 9,100. That looks correct. Okay, now units accounted for, starting a new section, completed and transferred out, That's 7,900. So let's put that. And ending work in process. Let's check and see. Ending work in process 1,200. Okay. And that also has the formatting. Let's auto sum that. Double click 9,100 and 9,100. So those two values match. We're good to go. Now we know that this is the EUP section here. This second group of units are all talking about EUP. So that means this is our EUP value, and we didn't have any transferred in, so that's going to be 0. But we need to know how many EUPs to assign to direct material and conversion cost. And I forgot to mention, at the beginning, you probably should put the percentage complete somewhere over to the side so you'll remember. So let me pick that value out. And it said they're 80% of the way through the fermenting process. So I like to put 0.8 just to remind myself that's the value I'm going to use in order to convert to EUP. So out of that 7,900 that are completed and transferred out, what part of them were complete for direct materials? Well, if they're completed and they're sent to the next department, all the materials are there, so they're all finished. If they're completed and they're transferred out, all the conversion costs are there as well because they're finished, so all the costs have already been allocated. So let's go ahead and put 7,900 for that. Okay, now what about those 1,200 that are still with us, that ending work in process? They're still in our factory, they're still being processed, so we have to assign some values to that. So how much of that 1,200 is finished for direct materials? Well, for simplicity's sake, all of our problems are complete 100%, so 1,200 will be the value. However, they will tell you in the problem, direct materials are added at the beginning of the fermenting process. So we know the direct materials for that ending work in process were added at the beginning, so all of them are there. So that's 1,200. If they would have said in this problem the direct materials are added at the end, and we see that they're only 80% finished. Let me find that. They're 80% finished here. Well, if they're added at the end and they're only 80% finished, then we would have to put a 0 in direct materials in that case. So since our problem says direct materials are added at the beginning, we're going to put all of the direct material into the work in process. Now that's not the case for conversion cost. Conversion costs are added evenly throughout the process. So we've got 1,200 units, they're added evenly. It says they're 80% finished. So let's multiply 80% times 1,200 and let's see what we get. 80% let's go back. This value equals 80% multiply times what we have in our work in process. Enter, and we get 960. And obviously we need to format the cells. So click there and click there. Had we had transferred in costs, I would have just formatted all these cells to look like that, but there's no need. So let's auto sum these, add those up. double click. Let's add these up. Double click. There we go. And that only makes sense because all of these are completely finished as far as direct materials is concerned, and they're only 80% finished in the work in process. So that makes sense and it adds up. So let's move down the sheet. We finished that part. Let's insert a line here. Nope. Let's go back. Insert a line here. Okay. Now, these are our units. Let's assign some costs because that's what we really want to know. So, beginning, work in process, transferred in values are all 0. What direct materials are cost, beginning, work in process, direct materials, $540. So let's put that in. And for the cost, we're dealing with dollars. And just to remind myself, I'm going to format all of this in the accounting format so that let's go back. Okay, so let's go in here. 504. I tell you what, I'm gonna just enter them as values and then I'll format them after. Okay, started in production. Okay, let's see. Cost added during direct materials and direct labor. Let's see. Plus manufacturing overhead. So they're going to give us the conversion cost. So let's just follow along. Okay, direct materials plus manufacturing overhead. Let me just do a little calculation over here. Direct materials is... oh wait, sorry. I'm reading the wrong line. Direct materials 540. Now direct labor, manufacturing overhead, that's 195. Let me just do a little calculation. And 210. And auto sum those. And that's 405. So our conversion costs are 405. Okay. And that's the beginning. And so direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead, cost added during March. So started in production. Direct materials 9288. 9288. And direct labor plus manufacturing overhead. Let's just do a little calculation. 3305, 3378, and let's auto sum. Double click. 6683. Okay, and we need a total, so let's go ahead and get the format. And let's get the format here. And auto sum. Double click. Auto sum as well. Double click. Bang. Now you remember when I said that there's an exception and there's a reason why there's two lines that don't fit the format? Well, the reason why they don't fit the format is because here's where we have to make our calculation for how much did all of that cost per unit. And so we have to get these numbers from up here and divide with these numbers over here, and that's why we have these two additional lines. And that's why they come there in the format. So let's just go ahead and put in the value divided by total EUP. Well, total EUP is right here. Always stay in your lane. Always stay exactly where you're dividing. Don't cross over into either one of these. I mean, I guess you probably could cross over there, but later on we're going to start over here and you're going to have to divide by that. So I like to just stay in my lane right there and it gives you the correct answer. So divided by 9100. Okay. We're going to need to get a sum. So let's get the format. This is going to be divided by 8860. Okay. Let's get the format. Okay, we don't need this line anymore for clarification, so I'm just going to delete it. Okay. Let's go ahead and get this value. This actually is incorrect. So I'm just going to change this formatting to single top bar. Since we changed the positioning, I'm going to change the okay. This just has a top bar and a top bar, and these two values are divided together, so that's why they're going to have a double bar. So total cost to account for 98 divided by that, so this equals this divided by this and enter. This cell equals this divided by this, and we're hoping that the machine is making all the calculations correctly. Obviously we're going to have to do this on our own during the test, so be careful of your calculations. Now that we know the value of our cost, we need to multiply them times the number of units that we have, just as we did in chapter 17 when we calculated a value by dividing estimated over estimated total estimated overhead divided by total estimated base to get a value. Well, this is our new value. This is our value, and we're going to use that value in the same way we did in 17, and we're going to multiply it by what we did to get our actual cost. So let's go ahead and do that. For completed and transferred out, we're going to take this equals our value multiplied by completed and transferred out. It's right there, but we're going to stay in our lane, remember, and press enter. And ending whip, let's do equals our value multiplied by, stay in our lane, it's 1200, but we're going to stay in our lane. Click 1200 and enter. We're going to sum those two values. Okay, so let's get the format. Okay, let's go ahead and sum that. Click, double click. We have to do the same thing for this column, so equals completed and transferred out, our value 80 cents times how many do we have completed and transfer out? Right here, 79 completed and transferred out. So let's click that, enter, and this equals our value, the rate, multiplied times the amount that is in our ending work in process, ending work in process. So they're 960 and we're going to click that. Auto sum. That's correct. Click. And let's format it. Okay, so we know to add it. And these are our values here. Total cost accounted for. And we arrived at the end. So I forgot to add the fifth column. We don't need this value anymore, but it is connected in this worksheet, so I'm not going to delete it. But you won't need it once you're doing the test. So these are our values, but I haven't put our total column right here. So total costs. And that actually should go we're going to put this here. That total cost should go here. Okay. To get the total costs, we're going to add these two sums of the beginning. Okay. Equals this plus this. And we're going to add these. Equals, oh, let's go back. Equals this plus this. Enter. Let's sum those. And it looks correct. Okay. And we're going to sum these as well. Let's see. Equals this. Oh, this plus this. Enter. Equals this plus this. Enter. And I'm going to get a sum of those, so let's get the right format. Auto sum, double click. This needs to be this. Okay, I'm a little bit uncertain on these values, but they match, so that's good. So now that we've done that, let's check our work and see if it just so we can make it a little easier to read this and compare it. I'm going to format this. Format cells, border, click. Make it a little easier to read. Well, it didn't do it. Okay. Format cells. Outline. And click. Okay. It's a little bit off center because I added the total cost later, but let's check our work. And remember, I hid the answers, so they're actually hidden in this group of cells. Let's unhide and see what we got. And zoom out. And our worksheet looks pretty similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty good, so I'm happy with that so far. Let's check some of the values. The main values you want to check are these, 108 and 80. And we did in fact get those correct, so that's good. The total cost, I wasn't exactly sure about how to sum that value. So let's check that. 16.9, and that's correct. It looks like that's correct. And 16.9 down here, that's correct. We have 9828, and 7088. Those are correct. The formatting is a little bit clunky because I haven't put in the dollar signs. So we'll go ahead and do that quickly. And we'll just put the accounting currency or accounting. And I also didn't put in the formatting for this. So we'll just do that quickly. And that's bold. So let's click that. And let's make sure these values are correct. I mean, they should be because they're tied to these, but let's correct just quickly. 9,100, 9,100, 8860, percentage complete, which I used here. That's correct. A little bit off center, but all in all, I think it's pretty good. So that's how you complete a production cost report for Chapter 18. I hope this helps, guys. I'll upload this video, and good luck on the test.